So here we are, but why and how did we get here? This is exactly the sort of thing that I like to talk about.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Deanne, and this is Things I Talk About.
So here we have this age-old question, why are we here and what is the purpose? And I'm excited to share with you some of my own personal thoughts and opinions on this subject. But before I dive in too deep, I want to kind of include a little disclaimer, if you will, that the information shared is coming from my personal studies and research of what feels to be my truth. But of course, anytime we're talking about these complex subjects, you definitely want to tune into what feels right to you and understand that my personal truth might not be your truth, and that is totally okay. So take what resonates and leave what doesn't. But today I want to share with you of what feels very real and feels like truth to me as it relates to our origins, the creation story. And this is something I feel is important for us to sort of come to terms with what we believe or not, whether we share the same perspectives or not. So today I want to share with you a little bit more about this subject, and I invite you to open your mind. I know that those who resonate with the idea of possibly there being life outside of this earth experience, you'll especially, I think, appreciate what I have to share. So let's get started. Speaking of getting started, let's start in the beginning. I sound like, in the beginning. Here we go. So it's my belief that in the beginning that there was this one unified source intelligence, and that this was all that is. It was all encompassing. I know that, when we look at the perspective of yin and yang, before these two were introduced, there was just this essence, whether it be Tao or quantum space or whatever you want to call it. It was all that is. It was everything. And before this point, there was no separation. There was no different expressions of polarity. And so knowing that, I believe there is significance in the power of thought. I believe that this original source energy, intelligence, whatever you want to call it, whether that be God or universe, but this intelligence had this thought where it said, I wonder what it would be like to know thyself. And it had this feeling of wanting to experience itself. And in that powerful expression of thought, things were created. And what happened is this first initial source energy, fragmented into larger pieces. And looking at this from a unique perspective, one thing I love, there's a book I read called Prism of Lyra. And in this book, it talks about, this experience to know thyself and to look at it from the perspective of a disco ball. And when we're looking at a disco ball, we can look at each of these individual pieces or fragments that make up this whole. And they're each slightly attuned to a different perspective. What they're seeing, what's mirrored back to each individual piece is just a little bit off and a little bit different, and so through this perspective, we have this wide variety of experiences and, wisdom that can be gained through each individual's journey, as one of those pieces. But what I want to do today is I want to take a moment and talk about some of the first original larger fragmentations of this original source energy, because as time goes on, these fragmented fragmented again and again until eventually, yes, we did have that whole disco ball of perspectives and experiences, and journeys. But originally, when this source energy fragmented, it fragmented into a few larger pieces. And these larger pieces still operated under you could say, group consciousness, where they identified more as we than they did the smaller fragments that grew into I. And so I want to talk with you about some of these larger fragments. And I think that it's important, though, to understand with this that the information I'm covering is by no means all. I mean, every day in my work reading Akashic records, I stumble upon new stories of souls' journeys that are unfamiliar. And so this isn't everything, but I want to cover a few really key elements or pieces of these original fragmentations of source energy as they relate to where we are now and how we got here. The other thing I want to add is, I love quantum physics. I can't say that, I totally get all of it, but this is what I do know, is I do know that everything is so vast when it comes to time and space and possibility. And so, we want to keep that in mind when we're talking about these things. Often in our human mind, we want to see things linear, and not always is that possible when we, consider such things as quantum physics. So, but let's start off somewhere, right? Because we want to get some sort of idea. So let's talk a little bit more about the few of these larger fragmented pieces in the beginning. So here goes. The first larger fragmentation of group consciousness I want to talk about has many different names, and that might resonate with different individuals. But these would be terms such as the founders or the seeders, the originators. And this energy often could also be looked at in earlier journeys of human evolution, of higher intelligence sources that we looked at as gods. And so with these original founder, this fragment, what I am intuiting and what resonates with me is that this was the consciousness that was imparted with turning into our physical vessel, our physical essence of who we are. They were the seeders. When we look at topics such as the human DNA and we go down that rabbit hole, it's so fascinating to me to read about how, our human DNA doesn't exactly make sense. When we study ancient Sumer, we can see how humanity had this sudden jump that doesn't make sense. And here is where we put in what I call that seeder consciousness, that energy, that consciousness was a part of starting that journey of what we know as, our physicality, and who we are. So this was energy that was gifted in manipulating matter, and so when we're talking about the seeders or the founders, I'm looking at this energy being connected with our physical vessel, physical matter. And that was what this group consciousness created and brought into, the realm of what we know today. And if you're listening to this thinking, okay, Cassandra, you're talking about, source energy fragmenting, and here is this energy that is contributing to physical matter. Where's Earth in this equation? Well, there you have it. I believe that we all are starseeds, that we all originated from this original source energy, and this journey that happened well before Earth was ever introduced into the picture. And so this is what resonates for me as the founders. The next energy type I want to talk about is the blueprinters. Now, you may, if you've followed any of my work, you may have heard me talk about my soul origins early in my journey of this spiritual awakening experience. It was said to me through multiple different sources that my soul origins were the blueprinters. At the time, there wasn't much information. And if I'm being honest, still even to this day, it was hard to find information about the blueprinters. You could find information about the Palladians, the Mintuckans, and all these other star seeds, but I didn't, there wasn't much information about the blueprinters. And over time, I've really started to understand what this energy is. And what is so beautiful about this is through working with my clients and also my original mentor that I felt drawn to, there has been this theme of drawing me in individuals that are blueprinters and have the same soul origins as myself, which has helped me on this journey to understanding. So going back to these original fragmented larger pieces that were group consciousness, we've talked about the founders being connected to physical manifestation and the ability to manipulate matter. Now, what resonates for me is the blueprinters were a group consciousness that had this portion of source energy, the divine blueprint, if you will, of what this experience, what source wanted this experience to be. So the blueprinters I see as this energy that was very much involved with establishing what I would say is the matrix, this polarity journey. They designed the game, so individuals that resonate as blueprinters are very much involved or concerned with, things as it relates to polarity, and especially related to connection of the head and the heart, and reconnecting to finding that God source energy within ourselves and reconnecting with that divine essence of ourselves. So the blueprinters have gifts that often revolve around topics of energetics. And my personal reading of my soul's journey through galactic astrology, I've uncovered multiple lives where I've operated in areas of energetics related to portals and opening portals and understanding ley lines and things of this nature. In my physical reality now, I am someone that is highly sensitive to feeling the energetics of a room and being able to tap into that expression, not like you would typically hear as far as a empath, picking up on energy that way, but as an actual physical feeling of the energetics, the vibrations of an environment. And I always was confused by this because, most of the time when you're talking about energetics, people talk about healing, but I never personally, as of yet, felt drawn to that. But I'm learning about my soul's journey and realizing this isn't necessarily related to healing, but rather my journey in my soul, of working with these things as it relates to energetics and ley lines and portals and sensing the energetic signature of an environment. These sort of things are very much in alignment with blueprinters. So blueprinters being the ones that, were very much concerned with the game, we could call it the game. So they care about how people are playing it, and they want people to win. They want want people to feel like they're, thriving in this experience and enjoying and, having that journey of exploration of both the head, the heart, and bringing things in balance. Being in this physical vessel and this physical reality, understanding your potential as a creator, but not getting too lost in the illusion of what we have, and the limitations that we put on ourselves often in this present day society. So that would be the blueprinters. So we talked about the founders having talents and gifts as it relates to manipulating physical matter, and the blueprinters as it relates to being very much concerned with the energetics of things, the ley lines, the, energy. All right. So moving on, the next fragmentation I want to talk about is the Andromedan energy. And once again, we're talking about this group consciousness, these original large fragmentations. And so when we look at the Andromedan galaxy and we look at this Andromedan consciousness, it operates a lot different than what we know in this physical reality of Earth. And my mind is escaping me the name, but there's a movie that Disney put out, Inside Out. And if anybody remembers this or had kids and watched this, or you could even search it, there was this like elephant, like weird imaginative creature that was helping the little blue character Sadness on their journey. And part of it is they go to this place and they go into this like abstract factory thing where all reality was distorted and altered and constantly shifting and changing. There you have it. That is the Andromedan galaxy energy. That is what that's like. And so this group consciousness ends up, those who have this energy, especially in their galactic astrology chart, have this gifted ability to have this grounded presence that is very adaptable to change. You're able to move and gravitate through ebbs and flows of life and things, shifting and changing, which isn't exactly always a characteristic a lot of humans carry. We like things to feel solid and structured, and defined. But, Andromedan energy is this unlimited creative force of altered states of consciousness and physicality. And so when we're talking about this as it relates to in the beginning, we talked about some of the, different roles of the other fragmentations of energy. So when we come to Andromeda, what resonates for me is that this energy contributed to sort of like, I'm seeing it as the anchor, the ability to anchor down the experience as we relate to, our everyday reality. When we look at the Earth, we look at the fact that we have gravity and that, our perception isn't constantly changing and altering. I also believe that this Andromedan energy was very much involved in sacred geometry, and that this all contributed to, the anchoring in of the energetics, the balancing of both the physical and energetic matter, and kind of bringing them all together in this experience that, we are able to reincarnate and, go through and experience. So anyone that has this access to this energy definitely, I would say, is someone that may find themselves gravitating towards these sort of topics. I see this also as having very much of an artist energy, a creative energy as well, that kind of contributes and adds to it. as I'm tuning into this, when we pull all of this energy together, kind of what I'm perceiving this as is, if we look at the founders or the seeders, their role being concerned with the physical, essence of things, and the manipulation of matter, and we look at the blueprinters as designing the game, the journey, and the energetics around it. We can pull in the Andromeda energy and look at it almost as like the glue. It's what kind of holds all of the pieces together and has this creative, beautiful energy that makes it pretty. And so these are, the different roles of those fragmentations. Okay, so the last one I want to cover today is the Arcturian Consciousness. Now, when I'm referring to this, I'm not specifically saying the star in itself, but rather, once again, we're looking at these, larger fragmentations that took place towards the earlier stages of this journey. And so when we're looking at Arcturian consciousness, we're looking at sort of this energy that serves as our guide. We've had this, physical reality and this, this game or matrix, and, it's pretty and all put together. And now it's time to animate it. It's time to really pull it all together. And so it is believed that if we were to go back into sort of the beginning stages of this creation of Earth and this Earth journey, that it was the Arcturians that were the very first, beings that came into physical form that walked the Earth. And so the Arcturian energy serves as our guides. They are, who helped this whole journey sort of come into life and to be solidified. And so what I'm kind of picking up on is that, we can look at all the other fragmentations kind of contributing their part and sort of handing it over as a completed project to the Arcturians and saying, okay, here you go. Now bring it to life. And so the Arcturian energy, we go through and interact with specifically in two very important times in our soul's journey. And this would be at birth and at death. And if we're looking at this consciousness, this fragment, and what their, role is or what their passion is, there's a theme around, this desire to want to help assist the soul through this process. Sort of like we're not just thrown to our own mercy and say, okay, good luck, have fun, see you on the other side. But rather the Arcturian energy is very much concerned with, the well-being, you could say, of the soul. And so this energy is connected with being a part of the birth process. We can kind of look at it as a supporting energy that helps ground and support us, like a warm hug, you could say, to help us through that. Let's be honest, a little bit of, I'm assuming like a traumatic initial stages of the birth process. And then also the Arcturian consciousness is very much involved at the end of death. When we hear people talk about seeing, in near-death experiences, the light and the love that they feel, and also you can hear stories of people talking about, a place where they go to review their life. The Arcturian energy is very much interested in healing any aspects that need to be healing, helping the soul learn what was, experienced through the journey. So it is like the nurturing support, the loving energy that helps to, helps our soul in this whole experience that we go through. So what am I saying? What does this all mean? So there is so much more I could say. And in my next video, I want to take this storyline a little bit further and get into some of the very ancient star seeds, such as the Lyrans and Orion, and talk more about how these, galactic histories shape our present day reality, this life. Because I feel like, just the other day, I don't even know, I'm not saying whether I believe or don't believe on this, but, they were saying I'm in Florida and they talked about a portal opening and these, creatures and, are they alien? Are they not? And all of this disclosure on, things like UFOs. I truly believe that we are entering a time and a season that we're being asked to open our mind and consider these things, to consider that maybe we're not alone and that our history, our journey, our soul's experience is so much more vast and expansive than we could have ever imagined. And I think that each and every one of us is going to come in contact with this information and be invited to sit with it and to see how we feel, because I think things are changing. And I think that the magical and unexplainable, is going to become our everyday reality, that the extraordinary will become our ordinary, understanding of what life is, that we're going to once again understand ourselves, tap into our fullest potential, and connect with our ancestors that are, out there somewhere keeping an eye on us and seeing how we're doing. And so I am so excited to talk about these things. I feel like they're important. And I hope that this conversation today helped you sort of start envisioning this process of, seeing yourself in a light that extends beyond what, we might perceive religiously. And as someone that was raised in a very high control religious upbringing, I can tell you one thing my studies inspire, me and cause me to question is how much language in the Bible relates to topics that align with this concept of not being alone. And there's just so much information out there, but I hope that this was helpful. I hope this was a start to the journey to entertain the existence and, our connections to things outside of this earth experience. So if you liked this, definitely subscribe, the routine, right? Do all those things, because I definitely want to start talking about this stuff more. And if you're interested and resonate as a starseed, you're going to want to hear everything I have to share. I'm just saying. So thanks for listening. And until next time, have a lovely day. Bye.